Take me back to my reversion. Unite the clans, I give thanks to each person. It's that same holy water that we immerse in. It's that same tradition that we all each versed in. United we stand and divided they win. They ignited in their plans and divided they sin. If you think about it and see us all for the same lands, their biggest fear is that we all remain friends. I got love for Team Marsh and y'all podcast. I got love for Michael Matt fans. Ryan Grant, Rick, Verity, Flanders, Eric Sammons. Shout out to my boy, John Erickson. Avoid Babylon. I got love for Anthony and Rob Speak On. If you tried, you're persecuted the same for the weak heart. Our rules go way back before the Genesis, the Greek art, sweetheart. Yeah, this a mass to the ages. Shout out to Bishop Athanasius, Father Dave Nix, Red Pill, we out the Matrix. Haters.
I like surprising you sometimes. What's going on, man?
How much? How about you?
Had a wild weekend, Rob.
almost capsized. Almost had your own little
Dude, we went
your Gilligan adventure.
Camping in a tropical storm. It was like first off, so we started off and my wife didn't want to go because of the weather.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, everybody's gonna still go. My brother Joey bailed. Him and his wife, they were gonna go. They bailed. I called my brother Mikey and my dad up. I'm like, guys, we're still going. We can do this. Like, we can still enjoy ourselves. Let's go. They went. So we wound up. We go Friday night. Everything's so calm. The water's a sheet of glass. We get there, no problem. Friday night, we go and we go to sleep in the boat that night. Like 3 a.m, my wife wakes me up.
Yeah.
I'm out. I mean, I had a few drinks. We were hanging out, having fun. I was out cold. I'm like, I have a hard time falling asleep, but once I'm asleep, I'm out. The boat was boom, boom. The wind was kicking so hard. She couldn't sleep at all. She's freaking out. She wakes me up at 3 a.m. I'm like, I wanted to strangle her. So we get up, and my dad and my brother had these glamping sites. They call it glamping. It's like glamorous camping.
It's a little fruity.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, but listen, you're going in October during a tropical storm. Thank God we had them. So they were like, they were, I would say like the insides look like hotel rooms, man. Like they have 2 queen-size beds. There's a dresser in there. You have no power. That's the only thing. So I would relate it to like, it's kind of like boondocking on a camper, with no power.
What's a boondock?
So like they have 2 different. If you have a camper, they have 2 different ways of camping. One is called like onshore camping, where you're always hooked up to power and you have plumbing.
Right.
Where boondocking would be like you just took your camper on a beach and just set up.
Oh, okay.
And then whatever water you have, or whatever, like you have like
a
tiny bit of battery power, but like not much. So it was kind of like that more than camping, I would say.
Just have one of the liberals over there pull up their Tesla and hook into that thing.
And plug it in. Yeah. So I bring like a big battery pack for if I have to jump the boat, but it also has like an outlet on it if you want to charge your phone. If it has like all different outlets on it, you could get a little bit of battery power from it.
Right.
So we go into the glamping site. My brother was in one bed. He had an extra queen size bed that nobody was staying in because my other brother didn't show. So thank God my other brother didn't show. Because we stay in there. We wake up in the morning, and one of the flaps on the boat, the button came undone from the wind. When I tell you the blankets and pillows were saturated, like I would have woke up at 5 a.m. soaking wet. So when we left the boat, it was like 3 a.m. It was no rain yet. It was just wind, but it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, these were 35-mile-an-hour winds with 45-mile-an-hour gusts on Fire Island. So now in the morning I wake up and everything on the boat's soaked. So I'm like, all right, we're not sleeping on the boat this weekend. We're staying in the glamping site. Saturday we have a great time, and I'm talking to the guy up at the like the main area up there, like where they have the restaurant and where they have like stuff where you could go, like they have a little store up there. And he goes, listen, I'm just telling you guys now, they have a ferry today at 4:00. They're not sure if they're going to have a ferry on Sunday. Like the wind advisory is really bad. They're not sure. So me and my brother are talking to the guy, and I look at my brother and go, Mike, if we go back and tell them that, they're going to say, let's pack it up and leave. I'm like, don't even tell them. Don't even say nothing. So we go back that night. When I tell you rain, like we got about 3 to 4 inches of rain in about a 2-hour period of time. It was bad. It was wet, but we had shelter. Like there's something exciting about like camping when you have a good shelter. And we wake up Sunday morning, and the guy, I go over and I call him, like, hey, what's going on with the ferry today? Is everything running? They're like, we're not sure. It's going to be a last minute thing. So that's what I was texting you guys. I'm like, I don't know, guys. I might be stranded here. I don't know. They wind up at the last minute. They say, all right, 11 o'clock ferry is on. You guys could get on it. So I put my wife, my brother, my father, everybody on the ferry, and I take my little 24-foot boat across the Great South Bay. I tried to take videos. It got so scary at one point I had to put the phone down. Like these were like 4-foot swells, and a wave would just crash over the boat, and I was like, it was the most terrifying boat ride I'd ever taken. It was pretty crazy. There were no ferries, but tons of ferries. Yeah, we weren't in Cherry Grove. We were in Fire Island, but not Cherry Grove. Judith is the only apple biter.
What?
I came up with that term, apple biter, in reference to the Daughters of Eve.
Oh,
the apple biter.
Yeah, true.
But Judith picked up on it. I didn't think anybody actually.
Someone. We'll see it pop up here in a minute. But look who popped in.
Stephen Juno. I actually sent him a link.
It's been a while.
I sent him a link and asked him to join us tonight. Let's see if he actually comes. Let's see. Yeah, so I sent because Stephen. All right, so the topic we're going to talk about.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. We're going to make a poll. I can make a chat.
Actually, do that. Is Anthony Brave? Everybody's gonna say stupid, but I think it should be C, brave stupid. And stupid, because I could be both. It's not an either or.
Okay, I'll put that third option there.
I forgot we could do polls on this channel.
As long as you're doing it from the YouTube chat and not from
Steve, jump on with us, man. Come on, you can stay for 20 minutes and go, 15 minutes and go. You don't have to stay the whole time. So I asked Steven to come on earlier because Steven would have what we want to talk about tonight is some comments that Putin made and the escalation between Russia and NATO. And when I say NATO, it's really an American proxy war, right? Like, I mean, we're essentially giving the amount of money we're giving to them. We're giving them on the ground help. It's basically America fighting this war. I mean, we're not officially in it, but
I mean, at this point in warfare is about the technology you have. That's what determines victory at this point in time. So in that case, it doesn't matter if American troops aren't fighting or if it's, not it's American technology.
It's American technology, American money funding it.
Right.
Even if it's NATO funding it, America funds 80 to 90% of NATO, right? I think it's 90%. I think like Germany gives 4%. Like Poland gives 2%. It's largely.
Let's be honest. This is the money that we know about.
Yeah,
we're not talking about the black budget sort of stuff that honestly may have funded the beginning of this to begin with. So
yeah. Now I sent Rob a couple of videos. I think we should play the sax video first, which Stephen Juno actually sent me right before the episode. So Stephen Juno sent me that Jeffrey Sachs clip. So that's the second one I just sent you today. Let's play that just because of what's going on with the Nord Stream pipeline, that they want us to think. I don't know what they want us to. It's like we would have to be total idiots to think that Russia blew up their own pipeline. This is a pipeline that Russia had going to Europe. It mainly provided Germany with their gas. And the same day that the Baltic pipeline gets finished and opened, Russia's pipeline blows up. Now, American media wants to come out and tell us that it was Putin that blew this pipeline up. But you'd have to, this was Putin's only bargaining chip. It was the only way he had a way of keeping Europe at bay, not getting fully involved in this war with Ukraine, because they're basically saying, look, if you get involved, we're going to cut your gas off. Now, all of a sudden, this other pipeline comes in. Now Europe has a new way of getting gas, and Putin's only bargaining chip gets blown up.
But
so let's listen to what Jeffrey Sachs, who Jeffrey Sachs helped write Laudato Si. He is a UN. I mean, this guy is all about the 2030 sustainable development goals. Yes, Mackey is evil, right? But even he, listen to what he says.
Cutoff of an economy is getting hammered by the sudden cutoff of energy. And now, to make it definitive, the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which I would bet was a U.S. action, perhaps U.S. and Poland. This is
right, Jeff, we got to stop there. That's a quite a statement as well. Why do you feel that was a U.S. action? What evidence do you have of that?
Well, first of all, there's direct radar evidence that U.S. helicopters, military helicopters that are normally based in Gdansk, were circling over this area. We also had the threats from the United States earlier in this year that one way or another, we are going to end Nord Stream. We also have a remarkable statement by Secretary Blinken last Friday in a press conference. He says, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a strange way to, it's a strange way to talk if you're worried about the piracy on international infrastructure of vital significance. So I know this runs counter to our narrative. You're not allowed to say these things in the West. But the fact of the matter is, all over the world, when I talk to people, they think the U.S. did it. Just to tell you. And by the way, even reporters on our papers that are involved tell me privately, yeah, well, of course, but it doesn't show up in our media.
Professor, I want to get into tit for tat about what data.
All right, so did you see how the two reporters like, whoa, you have no proof of this. Where's your evidence for this? Like they're going crazy that even Jeffrey Sachs dared to utter something against the narrative.
Well, I would say it might seem like it's against the narrative, but I think they really do want the narrative to be that we blew up this pipeline so that it will further escalate the war. It seems to be that that's what they want.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is there is nobody trying to de-escalate anything right now. Nobody. So they're putting Putin in a situation where he can't lose, right? Like Putin cannot lose.
Russia, you don't lose in Russia.
He just can't. He's in a position where he started this war. He cannot turn tail, tuck and run. Like he just can't do it. So they're trying to corner him in. Now, when you corner a wild beast, what could happen? I mean, so we were talking the other day on Angela's podcast, and I totally got the term wrong, and I said strategic, but I meant tactical, and I misspoke. So people don't realize that nukes are not what they were at the time of when Nagasaki and Hiroshima happened. The technology has advanced so unbelievably. They have tactical nukes now that they can let them off without radiation. Like I'm telling you, they can minimal radiation, where it's not, where it just destroys the target they want. A lot of the radiation, what's up, Tom? So they have the way nukes are now are nothing like they were the last time we dropped them in Hiroshima. Now, what I saw today was Anthony's here.
The timing is curious.
So now what Russia did today is they deployed torpedo nukes off a submarine going somewhere. So what they were saying is he could light a nuke underwater that would set a tidal wave off. Like I mean, it's possible. It's just, these are just things that if they put him in the worst situation, he may try to do something crazy to try and get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, this has been kind of a contentious issue. And by this, I mean, Russian nuclear doctrine going back, really until the 1950s. They've always seen the use of a tactical nuclear warhead, one that would be actually smaller than Hiroshima and Nagasaki in terms of size of explosion, they've always seen use of that sort of nuclear warhead in a tactical sense, used in a battle, right, as just another tool at their disposal. And honestly, some conventional warheads that both us and the Russians have would create an explosion as large.
Yeah,
non-nuclear. And like you said, tactical nukes tend to not give off much radiation, and if any that they do is very localized to that specific area. These aren't huge, megaton size nuclear warheads that throw nuclear fallout up into the stratosphere, or localized. So it really wouldn't be much different than using a fuel ordnance airburst bomb like we have used in Afghanistan, for instance, as cave busters. But America has always told the Russians, whether Soviet or post-Soviet, that any use of any nuclear warhead, even the smallest tactical nuclear warheads, will be treated as a full nuclear attack.
We'll respond in kind, if not worse.
Way worse. We will instantly go to city busters.
Now that's if Russia drops a nuke on a NATO country. If Russia drops a tactical nuke or uses a tactical nuke in Ukraine, does America respond with nukes? With nukes? I don't know if they do.
I believe so. I mean, will America respond with nukes? I don't think so.
Will that give them? Will that give us the justification for going full out war with Russia?
I don't think you'll see large scale land units. We just don't have that capability in Europe right now, and it would take so long to get that capability over there that we would have already more or less decapitated the Russian government and military through air power. So I don't think we would even attempt that. I think you would see a massive air campaign against Russia, including going after their leadership via airstrikes.
So you think if Russia drops or uses tactical nukes in Ukraine, you think we go for Moscow?
Yeah. I mean, not the civilian population, I don't think. But it would be coordinated strikes against government and military targets, definitely.
From America, not a proxy through Ukraine.
No, from America, yeah.
At that point, we're getting involved.
I mean,
I've heard a lot of people that are like way more well versed in this than you or I say that they don't think they would because it's not a NATO country. And so Ukraine came out yesterday or the day before saying they fast tracked their membership application to get into NATO. Now, if NATO accepts this application, they have rules. You're not allowed to actually accept a country that's already at war into NATO, because that's essentially you're declaring war with NATO at that point, right? Like NATO is saying, okay, we're going to go to war with Russia at that point. As of right now, this is all a proxy war. Everybody's giving money and weapons to Ukraine to fight the battle on their own. But none of the NATO countries or America or the West are actually on the ground, actually fighting this war.
Not out in the open anyways, no.
Yeah. You think we have military leadership there telling them exactly what? I mean, I would think Ukraine would have been wiped off the map if it wasn't that, if that wasn't the case.
There definitely seems to be evidence that we've given them, real-time intelligence, especially with how effective they've been at decapitating the Russian military leadership, local Russian military leadership on the ground. I mean, I'm talking about Russian generals
that they put in charge of provinces in Ukraine that they had taken over,
or the generals leading the actual invasion. Yeah. Ukraine's been incredibly successful somehow removing them. Yeah. I don't see how they do that without real-time intelligence from the U.S. military.
Yeah. So now Putin comes out the other day, and I sent Rob a clip of the first thing he said, which I thought was unbelievable. But then he had another one that and that was only in writing. I'll see if I can find that while you play the clip of what Putin said. So play the clip of what Putin said, and then we'll talk about what he said and if he's right.
Citizens of the world, I speak for you, knowing that my message will always be twisted or framed, which will result that you all will think that I am the main perpetrator. But the only thing that I've done is protecting my fellow countrymen, people who feel Russian. I'm not interested in overpowering any other nations or disrupting of various worldwide markets or be any kind of frustration in any kind of process. I'm only interested, as I have been saying since the beginning, in protecting my fellow countrymen who has been under attack for at least 10 years. I am not against the citizens of Europe. It's your leaders who are against the citizens of Europe. I know that you have been indoctrinated for generations with propaganda, but this is your wake-up call. The Nazis won the Second World War. Your leaders are the Nazis, and you are well aware of that. It's the same club with the same approach towards other slave states, with ignoring being a particular aspect of that, ignoring your or mine opinion. Why would I blow up my own gas pipes? I can simply shut them down. All these kinds of accusations against Russia are very easy to debunk. Like who is bombing the nuclear factory at this moment? Europe is being led by the Satan-worshipping Nazi leadership. Wake up, people. Let me be the actor in my own slave state. You have enough bullshit of your own to consider. Everything is...
Now, what's crazy about what's going on is he's not wrong, right? Like, maybe
that was
not
most of it. No,
like he's not, but that doesn't make him the good guy, right? So it's like he's not wrong. Like, I mean, we went from having this moral superiority at one point in time and thinking that we could be the police of the world, right? So there was a time where Christianity would go and spread throughout the world, right? So we would go and we would evangelize pagan nations. At some point, that stops, and America decides instead of evangelizing these places, we're just going to spread democracy. Now, as they spread democracy, that always comes as a package deal with conditions of this new brand of Americanism, which always carries the rainbow cult, always carries abortion with it, always has all these things. So, I mean, even Francis is called that ideological colonization. So when we tell Africa we're going to help them, we're going to help you set up a democracy, but you also got to use birth control. You also have to have abortion, free access to abortion, and you have to accept the rainbow ideology, and then you'll get your money. So Putin's not wrong when he says the West is being run by Satanists. I mean, they won't come out and say that's what they are, but it's essentially what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look who's here.
You click him, Rob. I don't want to double. Marcus,
what's up, buddy?
I love the hat.
What does it say? Make Texas a country again.
I figured it was people like it when I'm topical.
So, Mark, did you see the clip of when Putin made the comments that Europe is being led by Satanist Nazis?
No, but I mean, I get why he thinks.
Rob, see if you could just play the last 10 to 15 seconds of that clip, because the whole thing, he doesn't have to hear the whole thing, but see if you could just skip ahead to the last 10 seconds.
By the way, I gotta say, Anthony, don't ever shave, man. You look good with that beard.
My daughter loves it. My daughter loves it. My wife hates it.
Really?
She doesn't like the feel of a beard. She likes the look of it. She thinks I look good, but she doesn't like the feel of it. So, like, when I go to kiss her, she's, it feels like sandpaper on her face. She's not crazy. I told her when it gets a little longer, it gets soft. But, at the phase it's at now, it's still a little patchy and working it through. Is this bros? Look, not all bros are gay, even though a lot of them act that way.
What is the controversy about bros? Like, because I mean,
it's just a movie that came out.
I know about the movie,
Bros.
And it bombed because nobody wanted to watch it, and
we're gonna leave that off the air. That's a silly thing. We'll talk about that off air. But
gotcha.
Let's play that last 10 seconds of the clip, Rob. Let's just.
Okay, hold on. Let me find it. We'll just start here.
Ignoring your or mine opinion. Why would I blow up my own gas pipes? I can simply shut them down. Citizens of Europe, I know that you have been indoctrinated for generations with propaganda, but this is your wake-up call. The Nazis won the Second World War. Your leaders are the Nazis, and you are well aware of that. It's the same club with the same approach towards other slave states, with ignoring being a particular aspect of that, ignoring your or mine opinion. Why would I blow up my own gas pipes? I can simply shut them down. All these kinds of accusations against Russia are very easy to debunk. Like who is bombing the nuclear factory at this moment? Europe is being led by the Satan-worshipping Nazi leadership. Wake up, people. Let me be the actor in my own slave state. You have enough bullshit of your own to consider.
I mean, you got to give it to Putin. The guy, he doesn't mince words. He says it like it is.
I think it's important to think about. And Rob, you're the history buff, so you'll back me up on this. The effect on the psyche that Operation Barbarossa left on the Russian people, and it still lingers to this day, because all of this that's happening in this whole territory issue with Ukraine and them joining NATO and all of that is because Russia lost the Nazis went in there and killed 30 million Russians.
And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And it honestly goes back even further than that. Russia was at the absolute mercy of different peoples from the steppes from the moment they were created as a people by the Vikings invasion. So they've always been really at the mercy.
Russia doesn't exist?
No, Russia most certainly exists.
Well, if they weren't always Russia, doesn't that mean they were really Mongolians?
No, they've been a people since, about the year 1000, 800, 900, 1000. Ever since then, though, they've been at the mercy of Mongols and Tartars and
Vikings,
the Cuman from the east, Vikings from the north, Germans, Poles, the Teutonic Knights from the west. I mean, they have a cultural and racial memory of this stuff so deeply ingrained and, like you said, in their psyche that
now,
But
now at the same time,
I think Barbarossa, though, in a special way, haunts them because that's like just 60 years ago. It was 60, a traumatic 70. Event for Russia, and
you can look at almost every problem in their society, and it does stem from that. I mean, the alcoholism that is endemic. The average Russian drinks like a liter of vodka a day. I mean, that's insane. Yeah. The lack of fatherhood.
That's the average Russian?
No, that's the average Russian. I'm not even talking about those they consider alcoholics.
Like that's just like a Russian thing is you're just drinking a liter of vodka a day.
What's up, Haley?
But the lack of men in their society still is demographically from World War II.
Yeah.
They were basically left as a nation of women and children at the end of that. And it's still affecting them to this day.
Yeah.
Now, what happens after World War II is now you have this communist takeover, and the communists were more ruthless than any of the Mongols, any of the Viking, to their own people, right? So, like, while Russia has this racial memory of all these things, Europe has memory of Russia doing horrific things to them as well.
Yeah.
Right? So if you go to Poland, Poland has a memory of the things Russia did to them that they'll never see Putin as anything other than evil.
But it's not just from the communists either. I mean, Poland had been at the mercy of Austria, Germany, and Russia from the year 1516, 1700. Poland had been partitioned and divided. So there's a lot of trauma in that area of the world all around.
Joe Botif, you asked what a liter is in American. It's French for give me some freaking cola. And those of you who watch Super Troopers will get the joke.
That's one of my favorite movies.
I love that movie.
It's one of my favorite movies. The intro alone on that movie is great, man. The intro, you can just watch that intro over and over. It's one of the funniest intros of any movie ever. Yeah, so it's like, okay, so what Putin says there is he's like, wake up, Europe, you are being run by Nazi Satanists. And in a way, he's right. Right? It's like I was telling Rob, like there was a time where we may have been able to claim the moral high ground where we were Christian nations and we were actually bringing, the truth, beauty, and goodness to the world. But now that's not what we're bringing. When we bring anything, we say we're bringing democracy, and it always comes with a side package of, okay, you have to accept the rainbow cult, you have to accept abortion, and you have to accept you have
to create a central bank.
Central bank, yeah, it's a whole system that it's not just democracy we spread. This is the new evangelization, the American package we bring everywhere, and we tried to do it in Afghanistan, and that didn't work.
I have a theory about what happened in Europe and why the West is so World Economic Forum-y now. I don't know if this is true, but this is just like because I thought about this a lot, because Anthony's right. There's it's weird how all the leaders of all these countries are all in it like this. So my theory is that
Nazi clones.
Well, the Nazis may have more to do with this than you might think. Something in 1990 happened that freaked Europe out, and they had to form a European Union, and they had to basically agree to rule by consensus. And in 1990, what happened is Germany reunified. And the problem with that is Germany hasn't really been a unified country for very many years in world history. But every time it's happened, they start a world war that kills millions and millions of people. So when Germany reunified, everybody's like, okay, we're not gonna let people elect populist leaders and things like that. We're going to rule by a consensus of experts that will
you're kind of right
just
about
sort
that.
of tell everybody.
Yeah, it's like Hitler rose to power as a populist, right? So it's like, so they always try to put Trump in that camp, right? It's like, it was crazy how they always tried to make it like Trump was that, but Trump was not that.
No,
and it's
very different situation.
He was just not that.
He was
at all.
definitely a populist. Don't go wrong there.
If you think Rob's a history nerd, wait till you guys find out I'm into stamp collecting. Okay, I can show you. I'm serious, and I have a whole theory, a whole series of German stamps going back from the German Reich of World War I, and then through the Depression era and World War II, and into East and West Germany. And there are German stamps printed that are like 30 Deutschmarks, but they had to overprint it 8,000. Just 8,000 is written across the stamp because they couldn't print stamps fast enough to keep up with the hyperinflation that was going on. By the end of it, I think it cost 50 million marks to mail a letter. That's why Hitler rose to power, and that's why Trump is not Adolf Hitler.
I mean, people were literally having to get paid hourly because their pay rate at the beginning of the day would be literally worth nothing by the end of the day.
So the story
the
saying in 1990, the saying in 2000, in 1921, America caught a sniffle, Britain caught a cold, and Germany nearly died of influenza. And that's what the saying goes.
Yeah, and a lot of the what they call is anti-Semitic, but a lot of that rhetoric that Hitler was able to build up was because of the interest that was being charged. So they were able to rile people up against a particular group because of crazy interest rates that people were being taken advantage of. And that actually did happen. So it's like,
yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't that one group of people doing it.
No, of course not. But that's the rhetoric he used to get that.
And see, I think Austrian German nationalism, because see, like the Germans who lived in Austria were in this multi-ethnic empire that none of the ethnicities got along, and it wasn't a very well-functioning state, especially towards the end there. And the German nationalists that lived in Austria were like, they were so hyper about pro-Germany. And there's always been the thing about, Jews control all the money and everything. And then when World War I broke out, people got this really cynical idea about war. It was no longer this valorous, glorious thing. They saw that people were making millions of dollars off the war, and war was all about money. And then this really horrible rumor came around that, well, because the Jews control all the money and war is all about money, the Jews start all the wars. That myth, more than anything, in my opinion, led to the final solution.
Well,
and their
though, to be fair, the only country that made money off of World War I was the United States.
Yeah, because we provided.
Europe was devastated.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'm just saying in the mind of, if you look at the most rabid Nazis, Adolf Eichmann, Adolf Hitler, the Franz Stagel, and the guy from Schindler's List, Eymann Goeth, those guys were all Austrians. The most vehement anti-Semitic Nazis, the guys who really pushed the final solution, in most cases were Austrian by
So what do you think about the idea, though, that if Putin is right and that the West is being controlled by Satanist Nazis, for lack of a better term, if we actually do go into a war, do you think there's an element of Russia being used as a tool of chastisement from God? If you go back and you read any of the prophets, when a people's has turned its heart from God, God will raise up a foreigner to come. He did it with the Saracens. He's done it with, this is something he will do to put a corrective to correct his people. Right.
But
so if the West really is Christendom,
we're not any more of his people than Russia is.
No, but he will take people that aren't his own to chastise his own.
I'm saying Russia is as much his own people as the West is.
They're more so than us.
This isn't like China, right? This is a Christian nation fighting another Christian nation. I
actually think the Orthodox Church is pushing a lot of this stuff because
the Orthodox Church is a nationalist church.
And the bad blood, the really bad blood in Ukraine is not between the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainian Catholic Church.
It's between Russian Orthodox and Ukrainian.
It's the Russian Orthodox and the Ukrainian. When the Ukrainians got their own autocephalous church, the Russian Orthodox Church had kittens, and they have not gotten over that.
Yeah, but there's also this element of the West is the West is Christendom.
Yeah.
It just is. The West is Christendom, and Christendom has turned its back on God in a way that would have been unimaginable 100 years ago. So when you had once the Industrial Revolution happened, the beginning of what makes me laugh is when you have Protestants who talk about the New World Order. It's like, don't you realize the Reformation was the beginning of the New World Order? The New World Order. Like, are you that daft? You really don't get that the old world order is Christendom, and the New World Order started with Protestantism, and then it morphed into the New World Order that we know today. But we are still the West, and our foundations are in Christendom, and we have completely tried to make evil good and good evil to a degree where it's like, if God doesn't intervene, it's almost like he's not shown. Chastisement would be a mercy because it would get us to turn our hearts back to him. I'm not talking about divine judgment and wrath. I'm talking about mercy. This is how God operates throughout history. When a people turns their hearts from him, he intervenes and allows some bad things to happen to them so that they turn their hearts. Look, 9/11 was a wake-up call. People went back to church for a week, and then they went right back to it and doubled down on it in their old ways and in their love of money. And it's what I'm seeing is just a setup that not just the West, but the church itself needs that chastisement desperately right now.
Here's what I want to know. I want to know when, we read all these encyclicals that come out from the Bishop of Rome. Why are there war? Why can't you people just stop fighting in wars? And why don't you just promote more peace? I want to know when he's going to go over to Ukraine, show us all how it's done, and cure the war, and show us all how he's going to bring just how he's the new Messiah. From what I understand, it certainly seems like it certainly seems like we don't need this Jesus guy anymore because Pope Francis is going to solve world hunger and end global warming. So I want to know when he's going to go over there and show us how it's done.
I think he has a very naive understanding of things, which most liberal-minded people do, right? Most liberal-minded people have a very they think that just human fraternity, man. Just love is love, and come on, all we need is love. I don't think he believes any of
that, though. He's a student of Perón. You know, he's a Peronist.
Bingo.
Why he's not ignorant, and he's not idealistic. He's a realist, and he's playing us. He's playing. Well, he's playing.
So people ask me.
I don't want to speak unjustly about him, but he seems like he's playing everyone.
I'm over it. I'm over it. I mean, he doesn't care. I don't care either. So people ask me, do you think the Pope's a heretic? And I say no, because you have to believe in something to be a heretic. You have to believe in error. I don't think he believes in anything.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't.
I don't know what he believes. But what I do know is the church is in desperate need for correction. Whether that's Francis, the hierarchy, or all of us, it's in desperate need for correction right now, right?
Well,
so
it's all good. It's all good, Catholic Church, because we're here now.
I mean, look, I don't ever like getting into like calling Saint Francis a heretic, thing like that. I will say he's the worst pope in history. I mean, I'm comfortable saying that, but he's still.
I'll get.
Yeah, I'm very. Look, we have a father wound right now, right? So, like, I spent the weekend with my dad, and I was sending you guys videos of like while I was camping with my dad. Like, I had an awesome dad. And like he still was like the glue that held us together this weekend. Like, if my dad didn't go this weekend, none of us would have went. He would like my dad because we had 9 kids, I had 8 siblings growing up. My dad knows how to cook military style. Like I'm talking, he'll feed 30 people. He's he's like a military cook. You know, we wake up in the morning. That man had a loaf of Italian bread sliced up, making French toast with it, eggs, everything ready to go for us. It was like, but when you have a father that can unite a family, we all went in a tropical storm to go to an island that was insane. It was like the stupidest thing we could have done, but we had that glue that held us together was my dad, you know? And when you don't have that father to unite everybody, there's a deep father wound there. And now all the children are fighting with each other. So you see all these infighting between the trads and the who goes to the Novus Ordo and who doesn't. And it's all comes down to a deep father wound that we're all experiencing right now. I mean, this is unlike, look, people say a lot of things about Benedict and they say a lot of things about John Paul II. Nothing like this. No. This is the first time in my lifetime where it's been anything like this. I mean,
so can I share with y'all a secret that I've been hesitant to share with people? Like for a few weeks. Okay, so you guys remember a few weeks ago
if you admit Sedevacante, I'm gonna slap you.
It's actually worse than that. I was like 96% of the way on my way to Constantinople. Like I was like for the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been like because
you mentioned those cryptic texts you were sending us,
guys. I don't know how to tell you this. Gay marriage is coming to the Catholic Church, and I don't know how it's going to stop at this. At this point, if Jesus wants to talk through this Pope, he's going to have to come down here and move his lips like a puppet because I don't know how we stop it at this point. And so I'm sitting here thinking, for 2,000 years, here's how it worked. The Catholic Church as a society that you have to be a member of in order to be saved. And the way you become a member is by practicing the Catholic Church's religion. Now, it seems like we're getting very close to you can either practice the religion or you can be a member of the society, but you can't do both at the same time. So which one do you pick?
So it's like part of the reason I converted was the church's teaching on birth control. Because the church stood firm in its teaching against the whole world. Every sect of Christianity said, no, we're going to accept this. We're going to accept this. And it was like, oh my gosh, there's this one institution that said, sorry, I don't care what the world thinks of us. We're standing by it. And that is what opened my heart to Catholicism. It's what made me say, okay, this is the true church, because they didn't back down when times got a little tricky and the culture was against them. So now I understand why so many people are having this crisis of faith, because I think a lot of people came into the church my route where they learned their way in and they said, wow, this is the one institution that never changes teaching on these things. And you're starting to see the facade breaking a little bit.
But you know how I got back? How I got back from that is Father Van Fleet, who is our pastor at Regina Caeli, who's a priestly fraternity of St. Peter parish, is the greatest pastor I've ever known in my life, because he'd been trying to call me for a few weeks. He hadn't seen me, and I didn't want to take his call because I didn't know how to talk to him about this. I'm not out to hurt people's feelings. I'm not out to like.
Real quick, did you stop going to mass in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And he hadn't seen me. He hadn't heard from me. And then he called my wife. He said, "Hey, is Mark okay? I haven't seen or heard from him in a while. I can sense he's upset about something. Tell him to come."
Okay, now is this during the time period where we noticed it too, that you were kind of absent? Okay.
Yes. But I didn't know how to talk to you guys about it, because I don't want to be like, well, Mark's Orthodox now, so screw him. I mean, I'm not trying to fight about it or anything, right? But at the same time, so anyway, I'm talking to Father Van Fleet, and I said, "Father, all due respect, I have completely lost faith in the human element of the Catholic Church." And he said, "Good, because aren't you part of the human element of the Catholic Church?" And at that moment, the whole thing about me going, or like the whole thing about going Orthodox, exploded in my head, and I saw that's not really different than what Francis is doing. You are relying on your own judgment. You are basically proclaiming that you're morally superior to Jesus Christ, because the Catholic Church is Jesus Christ extended in time and space. That's what it is. So when you say, "Well, I can't be a member of the Catholic Church anymore because I know better, or I have a better moral sense, or you are doing that thing that you claim to be wanting to get away from." And when I saw it, man, the whole facade of all that, it broke down. And I'm so grateful for that. I went to confession, went to mass this Sunday, went to Holy Communion. It was fantastic.
It's really that same presupposition that Protestants have, that Sedevacantists have, where you're right, where you make yourself judge and jury. You give yourself that authority.
It's more than that with Sedevacantism, because for me, what it seems like to be a Sedevacantist is kind of giving up on the fight in the church. And I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth or feelings in anybody's mouth, but to me, the battle is us. Like, we have to fight the battle. We have to form parishes where we have families at these parishes. Like, Mark, I've been where you are, especially these. I mean, I had the crisis of faith I had during Francis when he, like, it was about for 2 years where I stopped going to mass. And I'll tell you right now, when you stop going to the sacraments, it all fades away quick.
Your shield is down.
How quickly you can go back to losing your faith and just accepting some old things you were doing. And I had such an unbelievable enlightenment of conscience, with illumination of conscience, where I saw myself in hell because I was away from the sacraments. And it was such a mercy that I 100% give credit to Mary, that Mary gave me this mercy, because I was back on the path to hell, like right back on it. And I was jolted out of this slumber so rapidly that my wife thought I lost my mind. Like, she thought like I had lost it, because I was like, the vision I had of my soul in being damned was so real that, I mean, I was panicking. Like I hadn't been taking my kids to mass. I hadn't been teaching my kids anything. And it was like, I tried to reverse all of that in a 24-hour period. My wife was just like, "What is happening right now? Like, what is going on?" And it kind of freaked her out. And it just took a little time for me to really, like, just really staying in the sacraments is the most important thing I can do to keep my life grounded, even though all this crap is going on in the church. And it's like, there's times where you look at it and you say, does the Pope even believe the Catholic faith? I mean, it really is. It's a hard question, right? Does he really believe the same faith?
And believe it or not, it doesn't bother me. Look, if he wants to worship the Pachamama, I don't care because I'm not going to do it. I don't go to mass at St. Peter's Basilica. So quite frankly, I think it's stupid. I've never seen the Pachamama rise from the dead after being dead for 3 days. But if that's what you really, you have the freedom to reject God, and I can't take that away from you without a darn good reason or without some type of authority the church gives me to do that. But what I have a problem with is them putting the gun to our head and saying you will worship the Pachamama too. That I can't do.
So we're not there yet, though.
Trigger. What?
We're not there yet, right? So
Traditionis Custodes, man.
Okay, so now
you will not attend the Roman. Look, if you don't want to attend the Roman rite, that's fine. But you can't. You have no right. You have no right. The Pope has no right to deny Catholics of the Roman rite the patrimony of the Roman Church. He has
so now your
no
parish is
right
still
to
there,
do
though,
that.
right? You still have your parish, right?
By
So
the
I know
grace
this
of God,
is kind of
yes.
crazy that we have to think like this, but it's like, okay, so I still have my parish. I still have access to the Latin Mass. I know some people are not as fortunate as we are, right? But until they introduce, like, of course there are sacrilegious things going on at the Novus Ordo, but until they introduce actual sacrilege into the rubrics, that is still a valid mass. Okay, so it's like,
could be argued communion in the hand is that.
no.
Well,
no.
validity and licitness are two different things. I mean, if the church says it's valid, I go with her that
I think it's valid and licit. I just don't think it's reverent enough.
But it's
I just think that it's the biggest contribution to the loss of faith is the new mass.
It isn't the Roman rite. Yeah. Calling it you can take a basketball game and call it baseball all you want. It's not baseball. Okay. Yeah. So it's not the Roman rite. If you look at the other uses of the Western Latin liturgy, there is such a anomalous bulk thing called the Western Christian liturgy, and it has variations. There was the use
of
ordinariate,
right? The ordinariate is not the Roman rite,
right? But the one thing that they all sort of have in common, they have a few things in common. They start with Psalm 42 at the foot of the altar. That's all ad orientem. They all end with the reading of John's gospel. It has an all similar structure. Now, you're right. The rubrics from place to place are a little bit different. And in the Roman rite that was codified in 1570 for the Roman Church, that is sort of the ubiquitous Western liturgy. But there have been others. But if you look at them, they're all the same. And then you got this thing that was manufactured in the early 70s that, I'm sorry, it isn't the Roman rite. And I can't just look at something that I know is false and say that it's true because the Catholic Church says I have to. I got into this to know and love the truth, not to see how many things I can convince myself of, how many mental gymnastics I can do to convince myself that up is down and right is wrong. And if that's what the Catholic Church is, tell me now, I'll get out and you can have the whole thing to yourself and nobody should belong to it.
Yeah, that's.
But I don't think I don't think that that's what it is.
If they promulgate error, or they actually, it's like, yeah. I mean, look, me and Rob always try to stay away from actually criticizing individuals on this channel. But believe me, I mean, it's something weighing on all of us. I mean, it just is. I mean, to pretend it's not is just, you're lying. I mean, you have to be like in the Where Peter Is crowd to really be like a fan of what's going on right now. I mean, when they read, in the end times, there will be doctrines that tickle your ears, things like that. Like, that's literally what we're seeing right now. Yeah. There's doctrines that tickle people's ears and they want to believe it because it's got that itch and it makes them feel good and they get to go and live their lives with the way, without feeling any condemnation. But like, we were told these things were going to have, the church is going to suffer a final persecution that will lead to its death so that it can rise again, right? I mean, I don't know if that's where we are, but it's like, it's
really requiring a lot of faith. The faith time is kicked in because, like, one of the things that I can't do anymore, I can't pretend that quo primum doesn't count anymore because we've all agreed to pretend that it doesn't. The language is very clear. Now and forever and in perpetuity. Now, only a lawyer can say that they don't understand what that means. and they then come back and say, well, yeah, perpetuity means that I actually can change it in about 500, 600 years. That no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Now,
all these
I'm not saying that
things are
I'm not saying they can't come up with a new liturgy and call it the Novus Ordo Missae, Missal Paul VI, whatever you want to do. And I'm not saying it won't be valid, and I'm not saying it won't be licit, but it is not the Roman Rite. And to pretend that it is just because we've decided to call it that.
Well, I think Francis is actually honest about that. I think it was Benedict who tried to pull it off and do the extraordinary, ordinary form of the same rite, where I think Francis came right out and said, no, this isn't the extraordinary form and ordinary form. These are two different rites. And if you want to say this rite, you need permission from the church to say this rite, just like an Eastern Catholic would need permission from the Pope to say that, you know, that rite. Like these are different rites at this point. But I mean, I just think that we were warned enough that if we are in those times, I mean, Jesus said it how many times? When I return, will I find any faith on the earth?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about how the Catholic Church has functioned through history, Mark. You think about the mustard seed and how eventually it became the tallest tree in the garden. I mean, it was every single prophecy that Jesus gave about in every one of his parables about the church came true. And they all were valid. Like you could not have ever made prophecies like that and had them come true if you were I mean, it's just insane how unbelievably accurate Christ was when he told all those parables about the church and how they all came to fruition. Now, he also gave us in Matthew 24 that towards the end, things are going to get haywire. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying you're going to see the return of Jesus in our life. I'm just saying,
yeah,
we're at the end of something. We're at the end of some kind of epoch in the church and in the world. And the whole reason for this show tonight was because I really do think whatever's happening between NATO and Russia right now, I think is gearing up to be some kind of chastisement for the West because we've turned our back on God's in regular secular society and in the church itself. The church needs to be
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask both of you guys a question. Do you think nuclear warfare is going to happen in our lifetime?
I do. I absolutely do.
What a horrible thing.
I absolutely do. I think they're putting Putin in a situation where if they go too hard on him, he's going to be put in a corner. And when you put a rabid dog in a corner, he will lash out in any way he has to. And that's what they're going to put him in a position where he has no choice but to throw some nukes just to shake the deck up. That's my personal opinion.
He's not going to use nukes outside of Ukraine.
No, I think it'll stay in Ukraine. I don't think he can lose Ukraine. I think he has to, even the territories he took over. I mean, if you read what he just said yesterday, he said, so meanwhile, the West continues looking for another chance to strike a blow at us, to weaken and break up Russia, which they have always dreamed about, to divide our state and set our peoples against each other, to condemn them to poverty and extinction. They cannot rest easy knowing that there is such a great country with this huge territory in the world, with its natural wealth, resources, and people who cannot and will not do someone else's bidding. The West is ready to cross every line to preserve the neo-colonial system, which allows it to live off the world, to plunder it thanks to the domination of the dollar and technology, to collect an actual tribute from humanity, to extract its primary source of unearned prosperity, the rent paid to the hegemon. Like this language that Putin's saying right now, he's not backing down. There's no world leaders talking about, okay, we need peace talks, we need to de-escalate. Everybody's going, nah, we're not backing down. The West is doing it. Putin's doing it. This thing is going to turn into World War III sooner rather than later. And I think anybody that thinks otherwise is not really seeing how things are going right now. This started off as a small little skirmish between Russia and Ukraine. Everyone's involved in this thing now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried about Russia militarily, though. The real question is whether or not China will get involved.
Well, there you go. You think, look, Russia and China. So somebody said to me earlier that Russia and China are doing this because this is the only time they can because their population replacement rate is so low that they won't have the people later on to do it. That's not what it is. They see weakness in the West. They see us at each other's throats because we look like Rwanda. Like you were talking about the other day, Mark, we look like Rwanda. We hate one another. So when Trump was in, I kept thinking that we were going to go to war with China while Trump was in, and the liberals were going to say, take China's side. Like, that's really what I thought. I'm like, we're going to go to war with China, and these idiots are going to be on China's side because they hate Trump so much. But now I'm seeing we're at war with Russia, and it's me who's saying, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like siding with Putin here. Not that I want America to win. We live here. God forbid Putin lashes out like this. We're going to be in trouble. I mean, I'm on the Eastern Seaboard. I'm in New York. I'm on prime target number 1. It's the last thing I want.
Well, 1/4 of Russia's strategic nukes won't even work. So, like I said, don't be worried about Russia's strategic nuclear arsenal. I'd be far more worried. It's literally from the 1970s, and it hasn't been kept up.
Well, I don't think Putin wants to bite off more war right now.
No,
because it's not what he's got now ain't going great, and I think that his invasion of Ukraine was absolutely illegal, and I'm a big supporter of Ukraine in this whole in this particular fight, mostly because they're our Catholic brothers, and I'm tribal like that. You know, I'm that kind of guy. You ride for your people, right or wrong. But I don't think, you know, Russia is historically those people. They've always got to negotiate from a position of strength. And their method of getting our nukes out of Turkey in 1962 was not to approach us with a summit, not to say, "Hey, come on." This is clearly their way of kicking off that dialogue was the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, that brinksmanship is part of the plan, and so I don't know. I am hoping against hope that this is all part of his strategy to avoid a coup in his own country, because there's got to be people who aren't happy with this situation.
Well, anytime a Russian leader shows weakness, they do tend to be assassinated or have an attempt made, whether it's they attempt to liberalizing and opening the country up, or whether they lose a war or whatever. Any weak Russian leader will not stay the leader for long. It's just not allowed.
Brick. In Soviet Russia, the synods you.
There's
Very
talk,
good. Love it.
There's talk about Putin being sick possibly, and that so like if you have a situation where he's got 5-10 years left and he just wants his legacy to be something, like you got to realize whatever happens, America wants regime change. America will settle for nothing less. We will keep this fight going in a proxy war until we have justification for getting involved, really getting involved. America wants regime change there. They're not going to sit back and you saw that there were peace talks on the table. They had a peace agreement set, ready to sign. And then you had the guy from England who just stepped down. What the hell's his name?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson went over there and he tells them, don't sign anything. We wanted this conflict. This is the greatest thing in the world for us. First off, the war machine gets to keep churning and churning, and the military industrial complex gets to keep doing its thing. We got out of Afghanistan, I think, because we were setting the table for this, and we wanted all our power to be able to focus on this. I think we knew this was coming. I think that this is going to become. Look, you look at the way things. I'm a big typology guy. I think things lay out in a pattern constantly. Sure. So it's like you listen to Mark Twain and he says, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. Look at what happened in the 20th century. Same thing. You had a pandemic happen and this little skirmish starts off and all of a sudden World War I breaks out. Then you have a depression and then World War II breaks out. Like you're seeing the same patterns arise in this century. You're seeing pandemic happens, then you're seeing inflation go crazy, you're going to see some kind of a depression, and you're going to see a major war break out to fix the economy with their new digital currency or whatever they got to do.
We're all going to eat crickets, and that'll solve
I just think that these patterns lay themselves out over and over, not exactly to a T, but you see these patterns come back again. And I think that we're coming to the end of some kind of, and dude, I think you're going to see whether we either, okay. So the other thing is, if we don't end up in a world war with them, you're going to see a civil war at home. Either way, we're coming to the end of something. And I think anybody that doesn't feel that, I feel like I'm crazy, because I mean, I sense this in my being.
I would pretty much entirely disagree with you how you compared right now to the 20th century, but I know what you mean.
Why?
None of the patterns are the same at all.
Not in the same order. Not in the same order. I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying you see these things happen, and they do repeat themselves in a way.
Well, yeah, there's pandemics in the world throughout time to time. Sure, there's inflation's kind of rather new since the creation of fiat money, but I wouldn't compare now to really any specific time in the past, because it is entirely different in a lot of ways. But yeah, you're right. Something's coming to an end. You know, we're at the change of an era. That's definite for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the Apocalypse, when it talks about the beast is a system of control. It's like, it's really supposed to be Rome rising from the ashes, like pagan Rome rising from the ashes. Like that's beast, what you're seeing, pagan Rome rising from the ashes in the form of this World Economic Forum, New World Order type thing. They want to have, so if you look at what Rome did, Rome had a way of we should. This would have been a good one for Steve.
Would have been a
so
good one.
You got it. When you think about what Rome did, Rome had the gospel that was going on when Christ comes. You have the Son of God coming, right? So Jesus is the Son of God, but at the same time, you have Caesar proclaiming himself the Son of God. And there's two competing gospels going on, where the Son of God who brought peace to the world was Caesar, because he brought peace to the world through torture and crucifixion. And you have Christ comes, who's the Prince of Peace, because through love. And, you know, it's a total opposite of Caesar's version of being the Prince of Peace, you know? So you're going to see this new system of control who has a way of bringing peace to the world through force. And that's what it feels like we're gearing up towards right now.
If we wanted to compare it to something in the past, Kaiser Bob here, when he says the end of the American idea, I would say it's like the end of the Pax Americana in comparison to the end of the
post World War II American hegemony.
So what comes next?
Yeah, I mean, well, look at
Russia.
Look at how the agrarian South in America ended. It ended with a war, a horrible war, war. It wasn't just like, okay, I guess we'll just set up some factories now. No, they had to have that.
And that wasn't even really the end of the American South. That was the end of American federalism, right? It was the end of really the system of government set up by
republic,
the founders,
where each state is its own.
Yeah.
It doesn't really visually, nothing much changed, but at the heart, the way the country functioned and the way the federal government functioned after that, it was
a totally different systems. Yeah, at that point, federal government started to accumulate power, and it just became this unstoppable machine that controls everything.
Well,
and they do a lot of it with bribes.
In a lot of senses, that brought about a lot of good things too. I mean, we never would have been able to fight World War II as 50 separate, or well, we weren't 50 states, but yeah, I mean, there has been in no way we would have been able to do that as 50 independent countries. So I always say that we became good and bad things as a result of what happened in the Civil War. Like all wars, good and bad things will happen as a result of it. But you guys are absolutely right. I would agree with your assessment.
Yeah, I just wonder what comes next, because it seems very intentional what they're doing inside our country, right? Like the opening of the borders thing. There's nobody that wants that, right? Why are they allowing that? Why are they allowing millions of migrants? It's not about elections. It's to break apart any form of unity we had as a culture. Like, what is a culture? A culture is what unites a people, right? So if there's one thing to keep people united, that's how you have a culture. So we all agree on certain things. We all have the same norms. Those norms are usually have to do with moral values, things like that. So America was never a Catholic nation, but it was a Protestant nation that had enough of Christ and even the kingship of Christ early in its founding that everybody had the same moral values, right? But now we're at this point where we're trying to find unity and form a culture with a group of people who are okay with castration of children, chemical castration of children, hacking off the breasts of perfectly healthy teenage girls, aborting their children up to 9 months. There's never going to be a time where you can have a culture with that group again. And then on top of that, we don't have anything to unite ourselves to them. And then on top of that, you have foreigners invading the border. This is the end of the Roman Empire. This is exactly what happened at the end of the Roman Empire, where the borders just flooded and you had all these people coming in and they were no longer Roman. So, but Mark, what I worry about with that is, and I tried talking to you guys about this last time, if Texas secedes and becomes its own country. See, like, I feel like they are almost hoping for some kind of civil conflict to throw the Constitution out the window. And then you get balkanization. So Texas says, okay, we're going to be Texas with a country of Texas. And it's just, I just don't see how that will work when Texas itself is not united, because you have those same rebels that are breaking the country apart are in your own state.
That's true. And there is no such thing as a nation where everybody in the nation thinks exactly the same. I think that's, not. But I do think that Texas was once its own republic. It has and I think you got to be from here to get it. Like, one of the things, my friend came down here to visit, and he was like, God, you guys really love the Texas flag, don't you? You put it on everything. The shape of the state of Texas, which is a weird shape. It's not a shape of anything. It is clearly something that was drawn by people trying to make slavery compromises throughout the middle of the 19th century. We have got the shape of that thing on everything. I have neckties with little shapes of Texas all over it. We put the state flag in the shape of the state of Texas and put that all over everything. There is a real sense, I feel, that Texas nationalism just sort of runs in the culture down here, even though I am an American by citizenship and by birth, and I do call myself an American. There is a sense of, but this is Texas. This is different. So I think, I don't know if it would work or not, and Texas is a very different place than it was in 1836 when it became part of the 1842 when it became part of the United States. It was financially insolvent at that time, but you can't say that about it now. And we would control immigration of our own country. And, technically, if you wanted to come here from Oklahoma, you would have to apply for a visa. And that would be a thing. And there would be a lot of people who would leave as soon as we declared our independence because everybody's a Nazi, and they'd want to leave, and they live up somewhere in Portland where they can burn the courthouse down.
So now, do you think the federal government allows that, or do you think they pull what they pulled?
I think this time, because in the 1860s there was something to fight a war about. There was the issue of chattel slavery. And
what?
You don't think
abortion is their issue?
So that's what I was going to say. Like, I think abortion, if we really believe,
I think they want us gone for that reason.
Or should abortion be our issue?
I think they want us gone for that reason. I mean, that would be two fewer pro-life senators. I don't know how 36 electoral votes they don't have to worry about anymore that never go their way. I think it would be a mutual divorce. I really do. I don't think there's anything to fight a war about. I think there'd be a lot of strong language, and I think some fistfights might break out in some places, but I don't think a military war would break out over Texas balkanization. Personally.
But once Texas goes, like you said, that changes changes the political makeup of the country to where other states like Florida will go, and
probably
I don't know.
Here's all I'm saying. Culture comes from the word cultus. Cultures, like throughout history, were formed because what you worshipped as a group. So it's like the Roman Empire fell apart, not because Christianity started to rise, not because of all these, it's because people stopped practicing the Roman religion. Because even though it was a pagan religion, That's why even like the early Christians, they got in trouble because they wouldn't go to these rituals anymore.
Right.
So people started realizing, like, wait a minute, why are you not coming to the festival over here where we're having orgies and things like that? Because those rituals kept the people united. They kept them as a people. We don't even have pop culture anymore because everybody's streaming whatever they want to stream. You're watching Netflix, he's watching HBO, there's not even like a water
we don't
cooler
even have
show
we
anymore.
don't even have a working language anymore.
Yeah,
because like, if I say woman, that means you get 6 people, you get 6 Americans together, you get 8 different answers to what that means. There is not even a common language anymore.
Yeah, I don't see this going any other way but chaos in the future. I think that the American experiment has ended. We're witnessing a managed decline, and some event's going to happen to cause some kind of cultural collapse intentionally so that they can throw the Constitution out and they can put their new order over us and say, no, well, you guys couldn't handle it, so now we need martial law, and this is what we're going to do in place. That's my.
And if that happened,
I don't know how long that is, but that's what I think.
You guys aren't signing off, are you? Are you guys wrapping it up now? Okay.
No.
There was just one thing I wanted to read, and it goes back to a topic.
I'll stay all night.
It was just a topic we were talking about a while ago, but this is just. I'm gonna quote this one thing, and then we don't have to talk about the Mass for the rest of the show. This was in 1570 by His Holiness Pope St. Pius V, and it reads thusly. And I know this is complicated language and very nuanced, but let's see if we can figure this out. Furthermore, by these presents, this law, in virtue of our apostolic authority, we grant and concede in perpetuity, there's that word again, in perpetuity, that for the chanting or reading of the Mass in any church whatsoever, this missal is hereafter to be followed absolutely, without any scruple of conscience or fear of incurring any penalty, judgment, or censure, and may freely and lawfully be used. Nor are superiors, administrators, canons, chaplains, and other secular priests or religious of whatever title designated obliged to celebrate the Mass otherwise than as enjoined by us. We likewise declare and ordain that no one whosoever is forced or coerced to alter this missal, and that this present document cannot be revoked or modified, but remain always valid and retain its full force. I wonder what that means.
I wish
so complicated. We probably need, you know what we need? We need 30 doctors from the Gregorian University to explain this complicated language to us.
I don't understand why that's not considered.
Because we've all agreed to pretend that it's not. That's the answer to the question.
It's because there was a revolution in the church.
Catholic Church is now an exercise in mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating about it.
Timothy, that's quo primum from Pius V.
Yeah. No, listen,
it's an apostolic constitution, by the way, not a motu proprio.
Tim Gordon today was talking about on a Focus document. So Focus is like the premier evangelization tool of the Catholic Church in America. I mean, Focus missionaries are like the cream of the crop.
Well,
you know,
on college campuses.
And it was talking about Ephesians 5, where Paul talks about submission. Wives, submit to your husbands. And this document bent over backwards to talk about, well, you know, Paul is not talking about the sinful dominance of men. He's talking about mutual submission. The whole idea that Pope John Paul II came out with, where mutual submission, which is just not what it says. And like Mark said, we're at the stage of mental gymnastics where it was like, why does Scripture not mean what it means anymore? Why does the church have to be so worried that they're going to think we're mean?
Can I answer Timothy real quick?
Yeah.
Timothy is, what about the editing? Yeah. And even throughout from 1570 onward, different saints would be added, different rubrics would slightly change in some cases, like the Our Father, for example.
And that would be organic growth.
There were periods when the Our Father would be chanted aloud. There were times in which it would be alternated between the people and the priest, like it is in the Rosary. And by the time of the 1962 Missal is published, the priest says the bulk of it secretly, and then we would respond. But the structure of the Missal, the structured part of the liturgy itself, hadn't really changed. And that's That to me is the answer to that question.
It hadn't really changed since about the year 600 either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he officially promulgated at that time. They just got rid of a couple of things that were like, so that you got to understand a lot of it is because modern technology allows, like that was once the printing press was there. So it's like you didn't have a printing press before that. So it's like even what we were talking about before with like having a culture, it's hard to have a culture with modern technology because everybody's always thrown up. Like the printing press was such a revolutionary thing that these ideas could get out and totally upend the culture. It's a miracle America made it through the invention of the vehicle, the automobile. Like it's such a revolutionary technology that I can't believe America not only did it stay together,
well,
it almost
you could argue that
more.
You could argue that we actually haven't, that we failed since then.
Yeah.
Communities are gone.
Yeah.
Because now you have suburbs. You know, you don't have town squares. You can't walk to your local town square because it's miles away. And most of these streets don't even have sidewalks anymore, right? Because they're for cars.
Yeah,
so you could even argue that we didn't survive.
A town would be built, or a city would be built. The church was the center of the town. Then everything else was within walking distance of the church. You lived with your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins. You all lived on one block. There was no nuclear family. You had your family. Your family was every single family member, and you all walked to each other's houses. At dinner, you'd have aunts and uncles together, and there'd be 30, 40 people together. And when you got married, you moved into your parents' basement and you tried to live like that. My wife's gonna yell at me for being too loud.
I mean,
Anthony, you're screaming.
Sorry, Mrs. Abate. Is it Abate or Abate?
It's Abate.
Abate. Well, so you're Italian. Do you find? I mean, you have a very big, close knit family. Do you guys still get together like you did,
dude? So we were talking about this the other day. So my dad's brother has 3 kids. One of them moved to Florida, one of them moved to San Francisco, one of them is in China. My parents had 9 kids. All of us live in this area. We see each other all the time. If one person has a barbecue, there's 30 people there. Like, and me and my siblings get along so well. We all like each other's wives. We all love each other's kids. It's such a unique experience. But it's also because me and all my brothers work for the same company because my mom's dad owned the company. So every
you're all the
one of
mom.
us. Yeah, it's a little mom.
He's a mate. Yeah.
So yeah, but you want to know something? My mom's dad. I mean, you don't get into the construction business in New York.
No, yeah, for sure.
Unless you know what I mean. I'm not even trying to say anything. I mean, it's just you just don't. You don't get
allegedly,
into that, like
allegedly.
You just don't get into this field without whatever. So it's just the idea that
you writing a book. What?
So my parents had 9 kids and every one of us stayed local because me and all my brothers work at the same company. Some of my brother-in-laws, so my sister married a guy and he worked at the company. So it's like, look, my grandpa wasn't the holiest guy. He never went to church, but God may have given him the blessings he gave him to keep our family together. You know, so because he used to say stuff like that. Well, you know, how come God's so good to me and I don't go to church? Well, maybe he's so good to you because he knew that it would trickle down and keep the rest of the family together, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, my parents got divorced. I'm the only child. My parents got divorced 3 years after I was born. My mother and I hardly ever speak. My father and I went for 7 or 8 years without speaking. They went all off and started new families that they like better. I've essentially been an orphan since I was about 13 years old. I mean, my parents are both still alive, but they don't have anything to do with me really.
Yeah.
Well, I have a better relationship with my dad now than I've ever had. We're close.
How about your wife?
Oh, my wife is Cuban, so she comes from this big, huge, gigantic family that all love each other and want to kill each other all the time.
That's my family,
Anthony. It's very you know, Latin and similar to the Italians, where you know you're screaming at each other at Christmas, and fist fights have broken out, but like you wouldn't miss the weekly family reunion for your life, you know. It's a very different dynamic.
Yeah. So you were given that blessing where you married a woman with that close family ties, you know. It's like it's just I think the greatest thing I've ever been given is is the closeness of my family. Now, I'm going to tell you, my wife's family. My wife has 2 sisters, and I think if it wasn't for my wife and I don't think that family would have stayed together. But my wife and I are kind of in the middle of when the other 2 start getting into stuff. And my wife and I will always be the peacemakers and do everything we can to keep my wife's family together as well, because we see how powerful it is to see my family together. And we just want to make sure the cousins are always together. Like, it's such an amazing thing for when you're little and you go hang with your cousins. Like, to take that away from like, I know families where like the brothers don't talk anymore because the wives hate each other and the cousins haven't seen each other in 15 years. It's like, that would break my heart in my house, you know?
Notice the Italian last name here.
Yeah, Joseph. I think I got around that too.
Last Wednesday, I talked to my mother for the first time in 2022.
How'd it go?
Not great.
Yeah.
I mean,
how about siblings? You got siblings, Mark?
He just said he's an only child.
Oh, I didn't hear. I'm sorry. I was yapping.
No, man.
My wife's
sibling and an orphan, and I grew up very angry at everything and everybody, and
dude, I want to just like make you part of my family.
The thing that I love it. The thing that saved my bacon was I wanted to know what the difference between. I was like 16. And I just got a driver's license. And in Texas, in Houston, if you don't have a driver's license, you're under house arrest because everything is so spread out or whatever. And I found this Catholic bookstore, and I wanted to know what the difference was. I knew we were raised Catholic, and I wasn't really going to church at that time, but I didn't know what the difference was between being a Catholic and being a Methodist was. And a lot of my friends were Methodists, and they were asking me like, "So what's the difference?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I went to this Catholic bookstore to find out. And I started talking to the owner. And if you're from Houston, Texas, you know Lawrence Lalou over at St. Francis of Assisi Religious Goods. And we struck up a friendship. He ended up becoming my confirmation sponsor, but he taught me about the faith. And we would sit in the back of this little Catholic store in Houston, Texas, and we would repair rosaries. We would make St. Joseph kits. We would make Blessed Miguel Pro holy cards. And he would teach me about my religion. And he was a happily married man.
This man saw that you were open
living
to it.
Saint. He's in his 90s.
Like it's amazing how God puts these people in our lives, right?
I'm sure I would have been dead or in prison had I not found him.
How old were you at the time?
16.
Oh wow.
16. And I signed up for my confirmation, and everybody else in my confirmation class was there because their parents were making them do it. My parents didn't even come to my confirmation.
This guy, he thinks he's cute.
He's right.
Another anti-Italian bigot. Another anti-Italian. Is that you? Is that your fake name, Rob? Are you putting that up there? Awesome testimony, Mark. So I'll tell you right now, I am so beyond excited to see you guys Friday.
Oh, this
is something I have to say. Of all the things that this online community brought, my friendship with Mark, Jason, Connor, Angela, like this friendship we formed.
Wow. Totally missed Rob. Nice.
Rob's my brother, man. I just threw him out.
He's gone.
He's pouting. Rob, I don't think I've ever told anybody how much I care about.
No. Don't. This better not get gay. Just stop.
It gets a little, I pour my heart out to Rob. So if anybody thinks I said that as a slip up,
his heart is really angry. Just FYI.
Yes. I'm so beyond excited to we were saying we're going to film it. I'm definitely going to get choked up when I see you guys. Oh, wait a minute. We have a problem. Kennedy Hall is a problem. Man. And we're going to have a little, so before we end this show, Kennedy Hall is I can't thank you enough, Joe. Thank you, Joe, because I totally forgot.
Look what you said, Joe.
Kennedy Hall is a problem, and we're going to get into this. This is a guy. He's up in Canada, Canadian across the border.
Canuck.
He's got 20-something thousand subscribers. He comes and he finds a channel with 700 subs, and he goes, "I think that guy's entertaining. I'm going to take him." And he pulls Joe Boca off our channel out of obscurity and brings him into this kid Joe is going to the Catholic Identity Conference. He might be getting a job with LifeSite. That was my.
He's been out with Tim Gordon.
Kennedy.
The salt is flowing.
Being loud. I don't care about being loud. I'm angry.
She's wondering who Kennedy Hall is now.
First off, he's supposed to be my paisan, this Kennedy. He's got a fake last name. He's Italian Kennedy. You understand? Kennedy was supposed to take me from obscurity, not Joe Boca. Now I'm stuck here with you. This bum. Michael Lofton's a problem. Kennedy Hall's a problem. That's where we're leaving this one. Kennedy Hall, you are a problem. Not Michael Lofton. I got no beef with Michael Lofton. I got a problem with you. Take my friend Joe from me.
But as Anthony's agent, I just want to be clear that he would definitely be on the show if you asked him.
Yeah.
I'd flat leave Rob in a heartbeat if Kennedy tried to pull me up there. No,
oh, for sure.
Rob, I love you like a brother, but not that much of a brother.
You got people all the way from here in Minnesota. People here in Minnesota are going, shh, quiet down, Anthony.
My wife is so mad at me right now. She goes, babe, just please stop screaming. That's what she just texted me.
This woman is my sister from another mister. I like her already.
She's been married to me so me and my wife we started dating at 15. I got a candle at her sweet 16. She's been with me I'm 40 now, so that's 25 years, and she's still surprised at my screaming.
That's beautiful, man.
What's she thinking? So, Rob, we're gonna cut that little clip up as a short. We're gonna make a little video.
That's gonna be a good one.
Kennedy Hall is a problem. See if we can get ourselves 20,000 subscribers. And then we'll go steal Kennedy's co-host back. So Joe's going to be on Meaning of Catholic on the first Wednesday of the month, doing their Terror of Demons morning show. My kids are trying to sleep. They keep asking who's yelling. Welcome to my wife's world, guys.
I had the pleasure of watching his kids on Saturday, and they are awesome. So good job, sir.
Yeah. You guys are all awesome. Anybody have anything to close out? Mark, you got anything coming up on the channel before we go away? Or we're all going to make sure we all bring our computer equipment because we're broadcasting while we're
going to broadcast. I will close with this one last quote from Quo Primum that to me really brings the hammer down, and it's the very last sentence.
Go of this.
It's the very last sentence of the document because it's important. The very last sentence of the document. Therefore, no one whosoever is permitted to alter this notice, our permission, statute, ordinance, command, precept, grant, indult, declaration, will, decree, and prohibition. Would anyone, however, presume to commit such an act, he should know that he will incur the wrath of Almighty God and of the blessed apostles Peter and Paul.
Now, the question is, did Paul VI incur that wrath upon his death? Saint Paul VI.
I think for me to decide, that's to you ask Almighty God and the blessed apostles.
No, I know. I just wonder.
They say how he smelled.
Mark, Joe is a huge fan. You're killing this, Mark. If you ever want, yes, there is a So You Think You Know the Faith.
Killing it like I'm beating a dead horse, or killing it like
no. I think you should do a whole show on Quo Primum, man.
Bring down the hammer.
I should because I'm tired of pretending that things that are obvious are not true because we've all agreed to participate in a collective delusion. That's stupid. Yeah. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. He is everything. He is literally truth incarnate, and we do not have to lie to ourselves to reach Christ. We do not have to do that.
We shouldn't have to water it down to other people. And I think that if you just lay the truth out there bare for what it is, that is going to be the light that actually attracts people, not watering it down and muffling that light. We're supposed to be the light on the hill, and they're covering it with a sheet so that people don't see our brilliance. And it's really infuriating.
Absolutely. That's all I got.
No, this is an awesome show. You got anything coming up on your channel before we go away, though?
I don't know yet. Probably. I'm going to have Anthony on for a Halloween episode. It's going to be kind of interesting.
Ooh, that's going to be
excited for that. Yeah, I'm excited for that. So I wrote an article that I submitted to 1 Peter 5 last Halloween.
I got to put it up on Chadman.
I submitted it to Tim Flanders, and Charles Colomb submitted an article that had very similar themes in it. And I'm never gonna beat out Charles Colomb. So Tim said, he goes, look, I'm gonna go with Charles, but maybe next year send it over again. Tim, you know what? You lost your chance. I'm sending the article to Tradmen, and Mark's going to post it on his site, and then Mark and I are going to do a podcast on it. So we will go from
Absolutely.
there. We are doing trivia this week on Wednesday. Mark, if you got anything that you do need to promote, just let us know, and we'll throw it out there when you think of it.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. This was fun. I really enjoyed this. I like being on with you guys.
I love it too, man. I think Mark is. I mean, he gets annoyed because I always lather him with this. I think, Mark, you're one of the best broadcasters I've ever sat down with. Like,
man, let me tell you something. If you guys would have known me, from during my 20s, because I fell in at 16 and did my confirmation stuff, but in my 20s I had a disillusionment when the Legionnaires of Christ scandal came about, and I totally just abandoned the church. During that period, you would not have wanted to know who I was. So if I have anything redeemable about myself, it is only by the grace of Jesus Christ, and every failure has been mine, and I own that. So if there's anything that you see that's redeemable about me, thank Almighty God, because it's only by him and no one else. The site is www.tradmenpodcast.com.
Look at that. I will tell you this, though. When you were in your debauchery days, I was probably in mine, and we probably would have got along perfectly well. So
we probably would.
I don't know.
We probably would.
We're gonna trade some war stories this weekend, guys. Get ready for some pop-up broadcasts with no notifications. We're just gonna jump on there whenever we see something funny. We're gonna be probably.
It's gonna be a crazy mess.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild weekend. So I hope you guys join us for Trivia Wednesday. If not, we'll see you guys over the weekend. Mark, were you a Legionnaire?
I was a novice for 2 years. Yeah, that's where I discerned my vocation. And who father's camp out? I didn't go to any camp out, so I'm not sure.
Judith says another awesome show. Thank you, John. Thank you, Judith. You're always so good to us, so kind. Yes, Rupia, we are going to be broadcasting live while we are out there, and we'll have
try
plenty of
to
videos
keep everyone updated as best we can. But if Anthony runs into Scott Hahn, we have to go live just to see him get arrested. So
I'm waiting for you. Everybody, I mean, I know I make such a big thing of Matt Fradd, but like I will fangirl over Scott Hahn. Like I love Scott Hahn. So all right, guys, thank you so much. Rob, why don't you take us out? But Jake Tate, you absolutely missed a fun one. And we were just reading from Quo Primum, Jake. Like you should have been.
I can read it again if you want.
Jake would have loved you quoting that, man. I'm hoping Anthony freaks out Fradd.
Make some shorts of that. I'll tell you what. Let's make some shorts.
Yeah,
of that.
I was going to say.
I'll drop them on Tradmen.
I was going to tell you that would be great.
It's time for people to get woke, bro.
Reading from that, you should make a couple of shorts. Mark, I will tell you right now, you can clip anything from our channel, without permission, and we won't accuse you. We won't accuse you of stealing, I promise.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
And guess what? You can do your own shows about conspiracy theories. You don't need to ask us either.
Okay.
Oh, boy, Rob's pushing it. All right.
Okay, have a good night,
Rob.